Must be Thursday. Family Matters with Kevin Petersen.
Oh my God, it's Jay. How are you, brother?
I'm amazing. I'm absolutely 100% amazing. Dude, words only, not actions.
That's what they say about you, Jay.
I want to meet Dave pretty soon. They've been talking about me for a while now.
That's right.
So, well.
But it's all good. It's all positive.
Yeah. Okay. I don't tell myself that in my head. I tell myself everyone is talking about me and it's all bad. So anyway, we do this every week. It's my weekly counseling session. We just let you in on how Kevin counsels me, and then we'll give a little information with the families too. But more often than not, it's directed at me. It's all about me. But how are you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing really good, as a matter of fact. Thanks. Just another day in paradise here at the beach.
Well, ever since I've moved to Nashville, I am not getting used to this cold. Like, you hear about it, but then when you're actually in it, it's a different story. But you know what? It'll be 60s on the weekend here, so I guess I shouldn't complain too much. So anyway, what we do is we fire off questions. Ultimate goal is for knowledge for families. My goal is always to stump Kevin, but you know what? We're going to put the families first, and hopefully it's a viable option. But if we do get to stump, I win. So anyway, let's get right into it. So
stump the chumps.
Yeah. So, well, I actually thought, I put some work into this show, actually, which is odd, but, I don't know the order of these questions, but I guess what I want to do is we had a long email, or I got a long email from someone. Ultimate goal is he's battles in and out of recovery, we'll just say, staying sober, not so staying sober. But the larger scheme here is something that gets obviously thrown around a lot, but his, good worded novel email to me was about the stigma, and when exactly he asked me, he asked in general, but I'll ask you, ultimately, my words, when do you feel stigma turns into a strength and more about being more open and kind of making it a part of you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense.
Because he was ultimately saying it was just it's so hard to overcome the stigma, and it's his belief that it's just weights him down, the stigma, like when you maybe in his head or something. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. I want to be judicious in my response to that. I'll share with you my experience. And my experience was that when I walked into my first AA meeting and started asking for help, I didn't give a crap about my stigma. I had what we call the gift of desperation. I was at the point where my family was like, that's great. Let us know how it works out. My friends were like, that's great. Let us know how it works out. I had to quit my job before I got fired again. I had to quit my girlfriend before she dumped me again. So it was pretty clear to me that I needed help. And when I walked into a room and they were like, hey, congratulations, welcome. We struggle here with drugs and alcohol, and we will show you a new way of life. I was like, I'm in. I don't need. Does that? I mean,
yeah.
I'm not trying to. I get where he's coming from. Where in order to make that first step, he's all caught up in his head. And here's a couple of things I would say to him, because stigma is always like, what do other people think, right? Yeah, let me tell you, they already know. Okay, let's just be really clear. Everybody around you knows you have a problem, and they know that you're struggling, and they want you to get help. trust me, nobody is like, oh, Kevin and Jay are alcoholics. It's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's like, dude, you need help, go get help, and here's the really funny thing. I would tell you that the idea that it's going to prevent you from ever getting anywhere in business or life, I think that's nonsense. I've had nothing but great opportunities presented to me. I've been, married, divorced, married again. I have a wonderful marriage, wonderful career, wonderful life. Life is what you make it. And so if you're going to hide behind something, then that's what you're going to have, but if you want to jump up and be like, hey, look, I have a great life here. I get a second chance. I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's never too late to start over, and you'll find that people in the recovery world will all be like welcoming you with open arms and saying, here, let us show you the new way of life. So I struggle with the whole, oh, I can't get sober because there's a stigma about it. All I've ever experienced is people saying, great, congratulations, that's wonderful. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, does that make sense?
No. I mean, I hear it all the time. I mean, it's something all around. I mean, but it has gone to, I mentioned this early in my recovery and used it as an excuse to how I was acting out. Not a relapse, but I was probably headed towards a relapse. But it's brought to a simple direction was, control what you can control, and the other things, the stigma is, like you were saying, it's outside issues and so forth, like projecting what other people are saying and everything. In addiction, I felt like I was swimming upstream. What I always say is, addiction made it feel like I was swimming upstream. Recovery is going along with the stream, and it's a lot easier life. And I'll just say there was also a delusional thought early on that I thought, if people found out I didn't drink or do drugs or something, mainly drank in the business world for me. I don't think anyone actively says I actively do drugs in the, but I mean, I can't tell you it's all nonsense. I mean, I literally just a couple nights ago sat around with huge, powerful people in Nashville, Tennessee, thanks to my brother. But, we're sitting around this table and, the drink orders come and I get a Diet Coke, and, probably the most powerful guy at the table asked, like, you're not going to have a drink tonight? And I would just say, I don't drink. And you know what he did? He didn't ask a follow-up question. He just went on. He said, all right, and, this belief that, I did have a belief that I would not be able to get far in business if I told people I don't drink anymore. And, turns out no one really cares. No one has ever said, Jay, you sound amazing. I would love to do business, but this no drinking thing has got me I can't do business with someone that doesn't drink. It doesn't happen. So,
Really?
Or maybe I just haven't come across, I don't think, but it's outside. Control what you're, and I would say if you're feeling really good while in recovery compared to how you're actively using, then stay where you're feeling great about yourself. And it's a process. It's not overnight. So my advice, and probably your experience shows, you're better off in recovery than fighting active addiction. The stigma will take care of itself.
And that's, I love the way you put that, because honestly, when people mention and they're like, oh, you don't drink? And I'm like, yeah, not for 33 years. So they're like, all right, whatever, good for you. That's great. They don't, this is kind of one of those things where we talk about, alcoholics and addicts have this massive ego, like, everybody's going to freak out because I'm not drinking. And they're like, they don't care, literally nobody cares,
They really don't. So,
and that's the funny part to me, is that people are like, Oh my God. What, like when we work with families, like they're like, well, what will the neighbors know? I'm like, think. And I'm like, you mean the same neighbors that have seen the cops show up at your apartment, your house, and the ambulance, and all seen all the crazy antics going on? Yeah, trust me, they don't care. And as a matter of fact, if anything, they'd probably like to see things settle down.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Well,
Call
Naked
me-
Jay is no longer showing up in the neighborhood anymore. I think they. So,
which is too bad.
oh, I could go there, Kevin. I'll just tell you, you're wrong. Clothed Jay is better. But on the flip side of that is another question, which, again, this past 2 weeks has been long emails to Jay about the show. But I do want to, I will say this was someone that was in active addiction that sent us a question or kind of an email. So it's not just for the families or loved ones. If you're actively suffering, if you hit something, if we hit a nerve, feel free to reach out to us. So we have a wife. They're in their mid-30s. That's what she says. But ultimately, the baseline foundation question here is: if they get sober, will they even be the same person I love? And her standpoint is, I don't think I love my husband ever since he basically got into, or he's a different person. I want to label love. I mean, she never said that, but and so here is a wife, and she even says, like, I know that you guys are going to turn this on me, and it's probably my viewpoint. So she's got partly there. You're talking about an early 30s married couple with a couple of kids, and when the courting process in the early marriages was out and about with friends, drinking, having a good time. She portrayed it as, we got out, we were doing a lot of things, and he's 2 years sober. He's doing really, really well. He's an incredible father. She said it all. But she had found herself not really in love with that person because it's more stay at home and it's more what she calls a slower paced life.
Yeah.
And does that make sense? And
yeah.
she's curious, as points out that she doesn't have a drinking problem, but she would love to go out and have a couple of glasses of wines with friends and hoot and holler. But husband now seems to be detached in the fun aspect.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I see this a lot when I was work with couples where someone, I mean, a lot of times people meet in their 20s when they're out running around in bars, right? Or college. And then, life kind of changes. But especially when one person, gets sober or, decides to start living a healthier lifestyle, then the other one's like, hey, that's not, I didn't sign up for that. That's not where I'm coming from. So, I mean, honestly, what I would say is her best move is to have some couples therapy. I would highly recommend someone that does Gottman, Gottman. It's a training process, and it's very much, it's very direct, it's very linear, and it's very straightforward. And because that's what she's going to need. She doesn't need, let's hold hands and chant the magic words and say and look into each other's eyes and remember the first time we met. As a licensed marriage and family therapist, no, you need someone that's going to be like, so, hey, look, what's going on? Well, he quit drinking and I don't think he's any fun. Oh, okay. Let's figure that out. Because, who knows? I mean, whenever I see a couple, I always say there's 3 options here. Things can get better, they can stay the same, or they can get worse, and that's totally up to you guys. And it may be that you guys don't really love each other. And I mean, you might like each other, but you're not interested in being in a relationship. You need to be able to come to the table that's one of the options, and that's okay. But then let's figure that out together. Let's work through that together and figure out what that means and why and how, as opposed to, I'm being painted as the bad person because he quit drinking and I still want to go out and have drinks. I would tell you that, I've dated people that drank and it didn't bug me unless they had a problem, you know. And then I was like, this isn't going to work because you drink a lot. You don't drink a lot, you know. And so, and, you know, the majority of the world doesn't drink a lot, you know, especially when you get older. And, you know, and I get it that, you know, someone wants to, you know, go out and maybe go to a concert and have a bunch of drink. I mean, but if it's like once a month, big deal, you know. That's no big issue. But, you know, I think that's why you got to sit down and talk to somebody, and somebody that understands addiction and understands relationships and understands marriage, and is like, so what are we talking about here? Let's get down to the brass tacks. Do you just not want to be married to him anymore? Because that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer, you know. Or do you not want to be married to her anymore? You know, that's perfectly okay too. I was watching it was Goofy. It's that silly show Mom, you know, and one of the girls on that show, it was dating a guy who drank, right? And she's like, this isn't going to work. We have to break up. And he's like, why? And she goes into this tirade about, you know, I don't drink, and I just can't. And every time I'm with you, and you know, when I kiss you, I can taste the beer. And he's like, she goes, so we have to end. This is over. We're done. You got to leave. And he was like, well, how about I just quit drinking? And she was like, oh, you do that? And he's like, yeah, I want to be with you. You know, and I was like, right. You know, so have the conversation. Let's see where this is going and what this is all about.
Yeah, those writers are in recovery, actually. So
yeah.
Absolutely. So there's I always watched it just when I found that out, and when I saw it through a different kind of lens, you can just see these little principles and little lessons, you know, tagged into fun TV. So
yeah.
All right, Kevin.
What else you got, Jay?
We got Mom and Dad. I think Mom wrote the letter, so I think Dad just got thrown in. But they ask, do they even remember the damage they've done to me or us, or am I the only one carrying this pain, Kevin?
Oh my God, this is a good one. Okay. So the answer is yes, they remember, and they're probably working through their steps. And in the process of working through their steps, they're going to get to the 9th step and make amends. And when they make amends, that's when you have the opportunity to say, hey, here are the things that really hurt me. Now, there are two sides to this coin. Just as the individual that's struggling needs to be in recovery, so does the family. Now, I want to be clear. I am
Kevin? What?
Crazy. What? It's crazy. It's crazy, you know. And I want you to understand where I'm coming from. There's no free pass. And I believe in complete accountability. So by all means, you should be ready to have that conversation. At the same time, when you use the words, I'm in carrying pain, that tells me that you need to do your own recovery and you need to do your own therapy as well. Because, you know, if you're walking around with pain, that's something that you can deal with and you can address. And it's not about them, it's about you. And yes, I understand it was because of what they did. I trust me, I did it. I made amends to all my family members, my ex-girlfriends, you know, I get it. I totally get it, you know, but at the same time, you know, when you use a phrase like, you know, I am holding all this pain, that tells me that you need some help and that I want you to get help so you can be free of that. You know, it can be a chapter in the book. It doesn't have to be the present day concept 24/7. I don't know if that makes sense to you or them, but that's really the truth.
Well, and just to add it's carrying this pain. If you take a look at this, carrying the pain, like you were talking about, there's also the value of how to respond differently and how to be more receptive if they're in active addiction or recovery. And it never said, but you can react to life differently, including your loved one who's suffering and so forth. But I read because that was an actual quote. And when she said carrying the pain, I said, Kevin's going to have a field day with this. And, but I mean, it says so much in just the words carrying the pain. Am I the only one carrying this pain? My mind just goes to, wow. I mean, yeah.
And I think your pain is real. I want to be clear. I think your pain is real, but just the important thing for you to understand is you can take care of that yourself. You know, waiting for them to do something, that's back to the codependence, you know, and that's what we're trying to disengage from, is this dynamic where we all have to sit around and wait for somebody else to take care of something. No, you can move forward. And that's the dynamic change that we're looking for in the family system.
Because that pain could be enabling, and how you enabled or allow things to happen, and you can now take that lesson learned and respond differently. You don't have to enable, or you don't have, clear cut boundaries, or I don't know exactly what else, but you can respond differently because that pain, part of that pain may be your past enabling or current enabling. So.
Yep, 100%, no questions asked, and that's why, you're the thing I would want to present to this person is you're still living in the dynamic of waiting for them to do something, and that's the essence of codependence. Okay, and what I want you to do is get to the space where you're going to actually be proactive and take care of you, so that when they do start dealing, or maybe they don't, and maybe you're the one that has to initiate and say, hey, I need to let you know something. I'm going to have some huge boundaries with you until these things are addressed, and I just want to be clear, I love you, but so
that pain is bleeding into other aspects of our life too. It's not just with loving this struggling son too. So right. That much I do know. So
Yep.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait another week to stump Kevin, but some good questions. So keep them coming, and you know what? We'll be here. We'll do this every Thursday to the best of our abilities, and some really, really deep questions. I love the questions we're getting. So
they're awesome.
So, all righty, Kevin, you're off the clock.
All right.